Welcome back to another episode of The Stark Effect. I am your host, yours truly, Kaleef Starks, and thank you for watching. In the words of our girl Lil' Kim, I've been gone for a minute, but I'm back with the jump off. Goons in the club, case something jump off, okay? I'm just joking. I'm excited to bring you my take on some of the latest entertainment and trending news. Remember to always leave those purple hearts in the comments and tell me your thoughts on what you would like to see on the show. My guest for today is a dear friend of mine, someone who I love, Mitra Karimi-Taleghani. Also, happy Women's History Month and happy National Social Work Month as well. Let's get this going, girlfriend. Let's go ahead and get it started. And now we are going to learn more about Mitra. Mitra Karimi-Taleghani, LCSW, is a trauma-informed psychotherapist living in LA. She received her MSW from Radford University and her BA in Gender Studies from UCLA, our alma mater. Mitra is passionate about cultivating a space for people that is non-judgmental, sex-positive, educational, kink-aware, and queer-affirming. She currently provides individual and relationship support to adults in non-monogamous, polyamorous, and other relationship structures. She has over 15 years of experience providing care to children, adolescents, and adults in various mental health settings. Much of Mitra's work reflects a deep connection to her Persian and Black ancestry, which informs her culturally affirming, anti-racist, and collective liberation-focused approach. Welcome to the show, Mitra. You know you my girl.
I'm so excited to be here
How
with
are you feeling? What's the vibe? Let's do a vibe chat.
I'm feeling good. I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, I'm
excited.
ready.
No, I'm super excited to have you. As you know, it is National Social Work Month, and it's also Women's History Month. And you know, just to be sharing space with you and have you here at the Stark Effect means a lot to me.
Aww.
Yeah, so could you tell us a little bit more about your background as a therapist, what type of therapy you do, and more?
Yes. Most of the work I've done has been trauma-focused work. So I've worked with a lot of folks with PTSD, complex PTSD, and basically what it means to be trauma-informed is just having knowledge of how trauma affects people physiologically and psychologically. And so most of the work is very collaborative because it's important that folks feel that they have autonomy in the process of therapy. And also there's a lot of empowering language that's used as well.
What garnered this passion that you have, for your career path, for your, your journey as a therapist? Where did that start for you?
Wow. Okay, that's a good question. I feel like I've always been very empathetic and really connected to people's emotions, or I've just always been very aware, even since I was really little. Like my mom has said that I was always very aware of how people were feeling, and I always wanted to make sure people were feeling okay, and I was a very loving child.
Very tapped in.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I've dealt with my own mental health issues, and, I live with depression and anxiety, and I have some of my own trauma. I have lived experience, So I think partly I was trying to learn more about myself, and it just felt really natural, And I feel like I always wanted to do something that I felt I was contributing positively, Yeah. And so I think it just naturally happened. It just felt like a natural path for me, and I really love it, honestly. It's not easy, of course, but I really love it, and that hasn't changed at all in all these years.
Well, I think it's important, I think it's important to have people like you who really love what they do, right? Because mental health is something that we all need, we see what's happening in our country right now. It's a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about people who are seeking out therapists, right?
Okay.
What should they do? Where do they start? How does that process begin?
Right. So I think it really depends on what they feel like they need and what they want in a therapist, right? Because like even though we all have very similar training, our personalities are so different. So how we show up is going to be so different. And sometimes a personality mismatch, it can affect, you know, the work. Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I think if people identify like, okay, this is what I need support with, and then seeing if the therapist has experience with that, and also like the consultation, like having a consultation with them just to see like, okay, do we vibe? Does this work? Like, do I feel like I can open up to this person and share really intimate details about myself, you know?
Yeah, they say it's like dating around. Literally, you have to like
Definitely
try a few therapists a few times. You know, I've been through that myself where at certain points in my life, I'm running around here meeting with this one therapist and it just didn't work out. I was like, I didn't really care for that one.
Yeah.
You know, they said something that was a bit problematic or out of line. They were sensitive to me, you know, being an openly trans woman, a black woman, and so forth. How, in your experience, like, do you, some of your like clients complain about that process of having to constantly like try it out or building up to that point to even go see a mental health therapist?
Absolutely. All the time. There's countless people that have been like, it's been so hard to find someone that I feel comfortable with. And they also, sometimes people get overwhelmed by just the process of searching, you know, because it's like you're going through all these lists of therapists and, you know, you have to read through their bios and then you have to set up the consultations. And sometimes, you know, it's also not very accessible, you know what I mean? And so sometimes people have a certain insurance and maybe the therapist they want doesn't take that insurance. That's why I offer sliding scale, because I do want to be accessible to folks. And there's like a lot of issues with insurance and stuff sometimes, but yeah, I hope that answered your question.
No, that's amazing, and it's good that you offer sliding scale to you know make mental health resources and you know therapy accessible to people who you know need the help, right? Because it's not that accessible. What are your thoughts about social media and mental health, right? Let's change the direction here, because you know oftentimes you know we have a lot of people who self-diagnose sometimes and look, I've done it, y'all. I ain't gonna hold you. I've done it. I went online, I went on YouTube, and I'm like, oh my god, am I a narcissist? And I'm not a narcissist, y'all. I'm not a narcissist. But you get what I'm saying? No, we all do it, right?
For sure.
We all do that. What are your thoughts about like people who probably can't afford, you know, to actually pay for therapy, you know, so what they're doing is they're going online, or they probably just don't want to talk to anyone in their chair, right? They don't want to sit down, you know, with a shrink. Correct me if I'm wrong for saying that term, shrink. They probably don't want to like meet with a shrink and like sit down and go through that whole process. So they're running to TikTok,
right?
And Instagram. What are your thoughts about that? People using social media as a way to find some type of solace.
I have a lot of opinions about it. There are definitely some licensed professionals on social media that are providing really helpful information, right? And then there's people that are not licensed professionals. I don't know if they have any kind of education on mental health at all. Like, I mean, how would I know? And they go on and say like, if you do this and this, it's a trauma response, or if these 3 things and you have ADHD. And I think that can be really harmful because there's not enough room in a social media post to include nuance and context. And so I think that could be really harmful because people will see something and be like, oh my gosh, this is me. And maybe that affects them negatively, you know, their self-esteem, or,
and we have all those gurus out there, all the gurus, right? We live in a guru age where everyone and their mama is a guru now. I'm like, can I be a guru too? I want some of those coins off of YouTube. I thought about it, you know. But you know, some of those people are not certified, right? They're not actual therapists. They might be like a lightweight life coach or something. No disrespect to the life coaches, because we need those, right? But you know, any more words about that?
You know, and also I think it's important to note that just because someone has the credentials doesn't necessarily mean that they will be helpful for you specifically and what you need. Like you said, finding the right therapist is like dating. You gotta go through a few and figure out who feels like a good fit, you know? And I would say trust your intuition and trust your gut and trust yourself, because you're the expert on yourself at the end of the day, you know, and you know what you need.
You know, and I think people forget that. I think sometimes when we are going through our own personal traumas and things, we forget that we are the expert, right?
Yeah,
we forget that
absolutely.
we actually are in the driver's seat of our lives. So I'm actually glad that you say that, because I have a therapist, y'all, and she tells me that all the time. She's like, you know what, Kaleef, you are the expert at your life. She's always very much so like, you know, I can't tell you how to navigate what you're going through. You're the expert on that.
Good.
So let's change the gears a little bit. So can you tell us about, it's a term that it's all on all the dating apps, you guys. Men are running around here saying that they are ethically non-monogamous.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
What does that mean? Because I've been on Hinge. I've seen several men when I'm scrolling, they be like, I'm E&M. What does that mean? And what are the issues with that term, ethical non-monogamy? Because it doesn't make sense to me. What is ethical? That does not make sense.
So I have a lot of issues with those words being put in front of, also the word consensual has been put in front of non-monogamy. So consensual non-monogamy, ethical non-monogamy, right? And my question is, like, why do we need those qualifiers when you don't put that in front of monogamy? If someone's in a monogamous relationship, you assume it's ethical, it's consensual.
Right.
But then when you hear non-monogamy or polyamory, you know, those words are put in front of it. So I think that's problematic, because I think it's, you know, further stigmatizing. Because I'm going to assume, if you tell me I'm in a non-monogamous relationship, I'm going to assume it's ethical and consensual.
Right. So what's the point of putting ethical in front of it?
Right. So I do think that.
See, these men don't know how to identify. They run around saying everything. I'm a pansexual. I'm like, you ain't no pansexual, girl. You ain't no bisexual.
I do think that it makes people more comfortable with the concept, because I really had to sit with it. I don't like that those words are put in front of it. I don't think it's necessary.
Right.
And I think if we're going to do it for non-monogamy, then do it for monogamy as well.
Right.
Because that would make sense then.
Right.
I do think that the broader public needs to feel more comfortable with certain terms, even though, let's be real, different relationship structures have existed prior to colonization across varying cultures.
Right.
So it's not new, you know, it's not a new thing. I think it's those terms are used to make people feel more comfortable with the concept.
Right. And by the way, I have no issue with those terms. I know I made a little joke about men or whatever. I'm not trying to shame men who identify how they identify. But this is why, you know, we need clarity, right? Because if I'm on Hinge and I'm trying to find my baby daddy or my husband, right? If I'm trying to find a man, girl, because I'm tired of being out here in these. If I'm trying to find a man, you know, I need him to be clear about what he is and what he wants, and tell me if there's a baby mama somewhere. Just let me know what's going on. Anyways, so earlier, you know, you know, the audience knows that you have worked with adults in relationships, right?
Yes.
So you've worked with people who are in monogamous dynamics, polyamorous dynamics, in different, you know, structures, you know, in relationships, right? Can you define each term for us? Can you define monogamy and polyamory and what you've seen in those type of dynamics as well, and like how to do that?
Yeah, something I want to say about defining things is I've realized, especially through being a therapist, that like it's so subjective how people define certain terms. So I will share how I, you know, define these terms, and maybe someone else might feel another way, but okay. So monogamous is basically two people being in a committed relationship that is, it's just the two people. They're not going to go outside of it. There's no other additional partners or anything like that. And it's what is very common, what I feel like society feels comfortable with.
Right,
you know?
What we see.
Yeah, what we see. So two people. Polyamory, so there's different terms. So there's non-monogamy, there's polyamory. Some people consider themselves open. They'll just say like, we have an open relationship. And I feel like, and someone might argue with me about this, I feel like they're kind of interchangeable, but some folks would say that polyamory means that you have the ability to love more than one person and do that in a healthy way, you know, navigate that in a healthy way. And that can look very different too. So there can be like just maybe 3 people that are all in a relationship, or there can be 2 folks in a relationship and they are maybe consider each other their nesting partners, which means you live together, or some people say primary partner, but not everybody has a hierarchy.
That's what I wanted to ask because, you know, I used to have a friend and a former roommate who was in a polyamorous dynamic and she was pansexual as well. Pansexual meaning that she dated anyone based off of their energy, right? It didn't matter what sexuality they identified with or gender. So her primary partner was a cisgender male, meaning he was born anatomically male and he, you know, identifies as a male and everything like that. So he was the primary, but then she had another girl, she had two other girlfriends, right? And one of the girlfriends, and let me correct myself there, they identified as all pronouns, but they fell more on the trans masc spectrum, right? And they only had a friendship at that point in their life. So it started off intimately, but, you know, as they grew, you know, grew in their friendship in the years of being in a relationship and turning into a friendship and so forth. Now, you know, they're still in a relationship, but it's more of a friend thing. It's not even like a physical, intimate, physically intimate relationship, right? So in that dynamic, I remember her telling me, she was like, oh, he's my primary. So I always thought that there was a hierarchy, right? So is there always a hierarchy in polyamorous
There's not
dynamics?
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, no, you're good.
There's
Is there always a hierarchy? And also, too, if there isn't, what are the different structures? Like, what are the nuts and bolts of polyamory? Because a lot of people are always like, I'm a polyamorous. Like, I can't tell you how many men I done dated. And they tell me, no, like, I've been out. Literally, I was on a date. No. Look, y'all, I was on a date last weekend. And the guy, he looked at me at the table, and we talked about it on the phone. I called you after.
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yes. And he didn't tell me this. At first, he told me he was single, you know, and then he was like, I'm a polyamorous person.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, polyamorous? And I was like, but you said you were single. So he said that he had one girl who lived in New Orleans and one who lived in Orange County. And then he wanted me to be the third. So anyways, that's besides the point. Can you tell me, and we'll get to that in a second. Can you tell me about the different structures?
Yeah, so there can be a hierarchy, but there doesn't always have to be. There's relationship anarchy where there's absolutely no hierarchy whatsoever. And there's also
what he told me at the table, you guys. Sorry. Okay, but go ahead.
What did he tell you?
He told me that there was no hierarchy with his partners.
Okay.
And he was like, yeah, I have two girls. I want you to be the third.
But he said he was single.
Well, he said he was single at first. You know, so I was completely blindsided at the table with my coffee. It was a mess. But tell us a little bit more about the anarchy piece, because me and him had a debate. And this is where I have to correct myself, because I was kind of like, I thought there was a hierarchy. I thought that there was a primary, you know. And I think he got offended. It was a mess.
Well, you know, I have to say it doesn't sound like he adequately explained himself to you. So I can understand that you were a little bit confused by how he was explaining things. But yeah, so with relationship anarchy, it's just there's no hierarchy whatsoever. It's just relationships, you know, without
all partners are seen on the same level.
Everyone's basically on the same level. There's no one that's taking priority or anything like that.
See, Mitra, I get jealous, friend. I get jealous. I'm like, I want to be number one. I want to be the primary. What?
Jealous? Well, then if you were in a structure like that, then you would have that conversation, you know, with your partner, and you all could figure out how you want to do that and what feels right for both of you.
Okay.
Yeah, because jealousy is a natural human thing. It's gonna come up whether you're in a monogamous relationship, polyamorous relationship, whatever, it comes up, you know. Sometimes it even comes up in friendships.
What have you seen working? I know you can't, you know, it's HIPAA and all those things,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You can't tell all their business,
Oh,
right?
no,
But
of course not.
In your years of experience, right?
Yeah.
When you see these couples navigating their relationships, whether it's monogamy or, you know, polyamory, there's a new term called ethical non-monogamy as well. We'll get to that too. Right. But how do people navigate these hard conversations in their dynamic? For example, what if jealousy does come up?
Right. If jealousy comes up, I think it's important to be open and honest and have a conversation with your partner. And sometimes it might be that maybe there's some things that you can put into place that would give you reassurance, you know? And at the same time, I think it's important to explore the root of it, because, you know, sometimes it could be a fear of abandonment, or maybe there's some insecurities that are coming up, you know. It's also important to remember that if you have decided to be in a relationship structure that way, it's important that you know that you can't control, your partner. You know, definitely express how you feel and talk through things, and at the same time be willing to give your partner autonomy to, you know, make their own decisions.
I love that. Y'all heard it first. You know, you have to give the partner autonomy to make their own decisions. Know that you have autonomy as well. And we're going to move a little bit forward. Speaking of autonomy, right? We live in an age where women experience, you know, shame sometimes around communicating about consent, or, you know, conversations about body parts and self-pleasure and things of that nature. As someone who is a sex-positive person who's kink aware, right?
Yeah.
You're kink aware, you know about these things. Can you tell us, how have you navigated those conversations of people trying to get more comfortable, you know, with their sexuality and their bodies, and also to tell us, what does kink aware mean? I know I'm all over the place.
Okay, I'll start with the kink aware. So kink aware essentially means that you have an awareness of the diversity that exists on the sexuality spectrum, right? So, you know, have you heard the term vanilla sex?
I have heard the term vanilla sex.
Okay, so
yes, I have. I'm a good girl. I'm a good girl. I'm a good girl. We're keeping it classy.
So yeah, it's just like basically what exists outside of the the typical, what people perceive as typical sexual behavior, I guess you could say,
like standard sexual behavior.
Sure. I hate to say standard because I feel like it's such a spectrum. It's so diverse.
It is a spectrum, yes.
But yes, like what people are familiar with as like, this is the...
I hate to say it, but
I know what you're thinking.
I know what you're thinking. But you're saying this is the realms of what we know as normal vanilla sex, I guess.
Kink is not abnormal, though.
It's not, and I don't want to insinuate that, because I'm down for I support my kink.
You're like, I'm down for it,
I support them, I do.
Yeah, so that's what kink aware means. And I would go as far as to say I'm also very like kink informed, like I'm very knowledgeable. I have a lot of resources to share with folks, and if they have questions, I feel well equipped to answer them. It's really important to me to help folks overcome shame that they have surrounding their desires or just anything about their sexuality, because I think a lot of us, myself, grew up in a home where sex was not talked about at all. And all I knew was I should not be thinking about it. You know what I mean? So it's really important to me to create a container where folks feel like, okay, like I'm not weird, I can talk about this, it's okay. And I want them to even feel celebrated in what they're into, you know? So I would say I'm affirming as well, kink affirming.
When it comes to shame, right, how do people navigate that really quickly? Like navigate shame around even having these conversations about, rather it be sexuality or kink or anything like that. What if they do feel ashamed? It's
hard, you know, because a lot of folks have internalized maybe things from their upbringing. Also just, I mean, our society is very stigmatizing of things that seem different, you know? So it's really through a lot of conversation and support, you know? And I encourage folks to like find community.
Right.
So other folks, you know, community is everything.
It's very important.
I will say that. It kind of circles back to what you were talking about earlier with folks that like maybe aren't able to go to therapy. I honestly feel like if you have a community that you feel safe with, that you feel like you can lean on, community is everything. We can't heal in isolation, like Bell Hooks said.
Right.
You know?
I love Bell Hooks. Shout out. All About Love by Bell Hooks. Right. Gender studies bag.
Okay.
You better pull it out. That's what I'm talking about. You know, we were back in the day in the same courses at UCLA. So shout out to y'all. Shout out to Samantha Hogan, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I done said that lady's government on YouTube. Okay, so moving on.
Yeah.
We're going to play a fun game. This is our game segment. And as you know, it is Women's History Month.
I'm scared.
So yeah, I'm going to throw out a few questions.
Okay, don't come for me if I don't have all the answers.
It's okay. Look, and you know, even if you don't have all the answers, it's an educational experience, you know, because I'm very much so about highlighting women and femmes. So I'm super excited for this game. It'll be super fun, super sweet. Okay, so first question. Which Black woman was the first to have a talk show? And the options are Wendy Williams, Della Reese, Ellen.
The first Black woman to have a talk show.
Yes.
Ever.
Yeah.
Della Reese?
I know Ellen was in there, so we already know it.
Della Reese?
Oh, good job. Yes. Her show was called Della in 1969.
I think I think you might have told me about it.
Did I?
I feel
You know, I'm a talk show girly, so I probably did.
way back in the day.
Okay, perfect. You shouldn't be looking at these cards on the
I
table.
promise.
Okay.
I promise. I don't do that. I do not do that.
You know, before we started, she was peeking at the table. you know.
No, don't listen to that.
So, which woman was the first to be granted a medical degree?
Oh, a medical
That's a
degree.
shaker, huh?
Ooh, okay.
Elizabeth Blackwell,
Okay.
Bridget Mendler, or Sandra Lee?
Can you say those one more time? I'm sorry.
Elizabeth Blackwell, Bridget Mendler, or Sandra Lee?
Elizabeth Blackwell?
You are good.
No, you're lying. I got it right?
Yes. She received it in 1849 from the Geneva Medical College.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Good job. Yes, my hands are a little clammy, but give me a high five. Good job. Okay, last one.
I was
Which
really nervous
woman
about
was?
this.
You said what?
I was really nervous about this game.
But see, this is that women's studies, gender
It
studies.
is,
It's
probably.
now called gender studies
Yeah.
at UCLA, but this is the women's studies coming out. You came ready today. I underestimated you, girl. Okay.
Oh, dang.
Which woman was the first self-made millionaire? The options are Beyonce Knowles, Oprah Winfrey, or Madam C.J. Walker.
Oprah?
No.
Oh, okay.
It is actually Madam C.J. Walker. She built an international beauty business.
I knew
Right?
that.
So she's like pivotal in black hair.
I knew that, but I didn't know that she was a millionaire. Okay.
And according to
Dang,
the cards,
almost
yes.
had them all right.
Yeah, she and the business actually had 25,000 active sales agents by the year of 1919.
okay.
So she was popping back then. All right, so let's move on to our celebrity topics because we know that you all love the juice and our banter and our our moments of entertainment, and our chat about it, our
All
girl
right,
talk
let's
about
get
it.
into it.
So earlier this week, RuPaul did an interview with the New Yorker, and in the interview, they shared about how they are in an open marriage.
Yes.
They've been married for 23 years to their partner. Their partner's name, I believe, is Georges Labar. Someone correct me in the comments if I got that wrong. But they've been together for 23 years, have a great relationship. The bond is good. But one of the quotes that RuPaul mentioned in the interview is that, quote, "It's just realistic. There's no such thing as monogamy with men." What are your thoughts about that? Because you work with people who have different relationship structures.
Yeah, I mean, that's not true. I think, what?
No, I love that. You're like, that's not true.
Yeah, I've heard people say things like that before, and I think, it's probably based on their experiences, and, I get that. It's not true because anyone can be in a monogamous relationship or a non-monogamous relationship. It's, if they choose to be and that's what they feel is right for them. It's not like gendered like that, that not in my experience as a therapist.
I'm glad that you actually said that because a lot of people do think it's gendered. A lot of people mistakenly think it's gendered and they think like, oh, if it's a man in general, men are just like non-committal. I mean, we hear it in all the songs. We all have had our hearts broken. If you are into men, we all have had our hearts broken a few times and stuff like that. But, that's the focal point of RuPaul's dynamic is like, I just don't believe that, and mind you, RuPaul is 63 years old, right? So maybe they have like a different mentality or like more of a like, I've dated men, this is what men do. I'm one of the girls in the community, like men are just, and mind you, RuPaul is LGBTQ, so maybe that's probably another reason why, because there is a stereotype that oftentimes that those relationships do tend to be open, right? That is a common stereotype that I've heard several times, but.
Yeah, like I said, I think it depends on people's life experiences, how they feel about something. And maybe that, I'm saying that's not true in my experiences of what I've seen as a therapist. Maybe that is true to RuPaul's experiences, you know? Right. So I will say that.
Okay. Well, to each his own, we all have our relationship dynamics that work and don't work. And, some marriages work with the open dynamic. You know, some people get a little hall pass here and there.
Oh.
You know, I've heard about it
The
in the
hall
streets.
passes.
Right. Some people might get a little hall pass, and some people are just full on committed. Do you believe I'm sure you do believe that, you know, there are some men that are capable of being monogamous?
I do. Yeah.
Well, where are they at? Where are they at, girl? Because I went at that table last weekend, straight up boozled me. Didn't even buy the coffee, but I was 40 minutes late. Okay, I was late, y'all. I was late.
I do want to say something though, because I feel you. I think that these terms, because they're now more popular, they can be misused. But like I said earlier, you know, the definitions are different. It's subjective to people. And so I think there's a lot of misuse of certain terms. And so then people are like, okay, so this is what all people who say they're polyamorous are like, you know? And so I can see how that happens.
Let's move on to the next topic here. So, as I don't know if you've heard, but Reesa Teesa went viral for the 50-part TikTok story, right? And in the story, she basically told her journey about how she married a pathological liar. He lied about his job. He lied about his family. He lied about the money that he was making. You know, she moved in pretty quickly with him, tried to build a life, looked for a home. He was lying about searching for their homes, lying to the realtor, lying to her. It was a mess.
Oh my goodness.
Got her pregnant, lied about getting her a car. They went just a mess. So that story went crazy viral. You know, she's known everywhere now. And what happened after that story went viral is that she got a lot of backlash. People were accusing her of being a clout chaser. And also a lot of people were saying that this is quote unquote, I hate to say it, you all, big back behavior. That's what Charlemagne the God said on The Breakfast Club. And she was just getting all of this backlash for telling her story and her narrative. But, you know, the positive of that is that she got signed to the Creative Artists Agency, which is one of the biggest agencies in the world, right? So we don't know what's coming, you all. We don't know what's coming. But what are your thoughts just about that general situation going on right now with Reesa Teesa?
Yeah, first of all, for her to be called a clout chaser, I'm like, so who isn't that's on social media? And also, why does that have to be negative? I still believe that was her experience. She wanted to share her experience. She's allowed to do that.
Yeah.
She's allowed to go online and share her experience. Like, that's millions, billions of people do it all the time.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't think that she should have gotten so much backlash, and especially not be called out of her name and be insulted. That's just not right. And
it's insane.
And it's misogynistic, and it's fat phobic, and it's just not right.
You know, oftentimes, and the reason I brought this up is because, you know, we have these conversations about body positivity, you know, and things like that. And on that show, right, a few of the other co-hosts was saying how, you know, both of them were insinuating that women who are plus sized are desperate, right? And a lot of people were just really laying it on her thick. And she went to the Tamron Hall show, and she even addressed it. And she said something around the lines of, you know, my body type, you know, if I can't act like I don't have any insecurities, right? But I still deserve love.
Of course.
I still deserve to have a relationship, and I should not be like chastised for sharing my story.
Exactly.
You know what I think it is, though? I think a lot of people can't believe how much attention her story has gotten. I mean, the woman has 3.7 million TikTok followers. She's been a content creator, right? So she's been doing this, and it's her truth and it's her story.
Exactly. And obviously she's a good storyteller. So
50 parts, 7 hours long, sis.
That's what I'm saying. And I don't want to make it seem like I think she's clout chasing. What I was trying to say earlier is that no one should even judge that, because that's kind of what people do.
But you're stating facts. So I just think people can't take that it's because it's her. You know, she's a Black woman. She, you know, and a lot of people really have a lot of stigma, you know, towards Black women and plus size women as well, right? So she's everything that society deems as, you know, not beautiful, or you get what I'm saying? So I think that's why she's getting this level of, you know, because if it was a little Caucasian girl, that wouldn't be happening. You know what I mean? Yeah. So our last topic with the celebrity news is Wendy Williams. Have you caught wind of the docu-series? Because the producers of Where is Wendy on Lifetime, they've been getting a lot of backlash.
Yeah.
I saw some footage where it was a scene with her in Black China. Her wig was off, right? And Black China was talking to her. And when Black China was just saying, I'm here for you, I support you, all she said was,
my real name is Wendy Hunter.
so Wendy was visibly, she's currently suffering from aphasia and also dementia as well.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about Wendy Williams and what's going on?
I think it's really sad, and I have heard folks saying that they feel like people are taking advantage and exploiting her, and I think that happens a lot, especially to celebrities that are struggling with their mental health, So I do think it's really sad, and I think I've heard that it's her choice, but it's like, is she able to make that and I'm saying that like respectfully, is she able to make that choice right now?
Well, she did sign a 3 installment deal with Lifetime, so this last part of the docu-series is like her last installment. So this was already like put into stone.
Like a long time ago?
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Okay. And was she...
And her niece went on The View and also said that...
I did see that.
Yeah, her niece went on The View last week, and she was just saying how, Wendy did agree to do this particular docu-series, although she's being portrayed a certain way. But, she is currently, she is a guardian right now. She's a part of a conservatorship right now. Her finances have been locked at Wells Fargo. So she's been going through a lot. Her family can't get access to her. Her son spent over $100,000 in Uber Eats. You get me?
Goodness.
So it's a lot going on. And that was one of the reasons that motivated the account being locked. Her money and her finances.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about celebrities and mental health, right? Because we see situations like Britney Spears, Kanye West, Amanda Bynes, right? What are your thoughts about when celebrities have the moment where they fall from grace, which is what we're seeing with Wendy?
I get really disappointed in the public and how they receive folks who are, because it's not everyone always has like a spotlight on them, right? So, some people, if they're going through a tough time, it's not going to be broadcasted to the world. And unfortunately, because they are in the limelight, we get to see all of the things that happen in their life, even the moments that maybe they would have wanted more privacy for. And the way that the public is just so mean and critical, it just really disappoints me. It really saddens me. And I also start to think like we really have not come far with understanding mental health or prioritizing mental health like we do other health issues, like physical health ailments, you know?
Yeah, and as you say that, it really makes me sad because, I know a lot of people don't think that Wendy is like, like deserving of grace, right? But, she is a hardworking woman, and we can all not sit up here and act like she has not influenced every single one of us. All of these creators out here today. If you are someone who is doing content and you talk about the celebrities and you're at a radio station, you're on YouTube like me, we cannot act like that this doesn't affect us, or that her story, we're not seeing this, or not only that she's not deserving of grace. I mean, she was diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia and also frontotemporal dementia, right? So
do you know when she was diagnosed?
She was diagnosed in 2021.
Okay.
But it came out this year, like when the documentary premiered.
Wow.
That's when the producers actually announced it. So that announcement was done.
Okay, if we're looking at that timeline, it sounds like then right about when she got that news is when they wanted to make a deal with her, though.
Right. And mind you, in 2021 is when she took the break from the Wendy Williams show.
Yeah.
And, this is 2 years after the divorce from her husband, Kevin Hunter.
Okay.
So it's just like a domino effect of got the divorce, show got canceled, having health issues.
Yeah.
Do you remember how she fainted a few years ago
I do
as
remember
well?
that.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot that's going on in her life right now. And this is why the producers are getting the backlash, because they came out and said, they came out literally last week and said, if we would have known that this was this bad, or if we would have known about her health issues, we would have stopped filming. But they started, mind you, they started filming in 2022. So they were filming with the family from 2022 to 2023, so they've known about this.
Okay.
Right? And also, too, the initial part of this filming for this docuseries was to mark Wendy Williams' comeback, right? People wanted her to come back. She was gearing up to come back with the Wendy Williams podcast. It didn't work out, and it turned into this current docuseries of Where is Wendy?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
What are your thoughts about what's going on with Britney Spears and Kanye West?
How they have also been in the spotlight while their mental health is declining. I feel the same. It's really sad. It's really, really sad. And I find myself wondering, like, who is there for them, you know, like who is being there for them and actually caring.
You know, I have some stats here according to the CDC, because before I read the stat, you know, mental health is something that affects everyday people and celebrities, right? But, you know, according to the CDC, more than 1 in 5 U.S. adults live with mental illness, and about 1 in 25 U.S. adults lives with a serious mental illness such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or major depression. So for those who are not involved in therapy, what are some steps people should take to address, you know, their own mental health if they feel that they're having, you know, some struggles there? What are some steps they can take to address that?
Oof. Well, it depends, because if it's something that they need extra support with, like, it would be beneficial for them to find a mental health professional that can support them. But, you know, something that I mentioned earlier about community is really important. You know, if you think back to, like, before therapists were a thing, like, we relied on our community. Like, we came together to support each other, you know, especially those of us that come from collectivist cultures, you know, and not an individualistic culture.
Mitra, it was such a pleasure to have you. I love you so much. Thank you for coming on to the Stark Effect and just sharing your energy and your vibe. And, you know, just being so graceful and fabulous and gorgeous. Aww. Yes.
Thank you, boo.
And there you have it all. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Stark Effect. I'm your girl, Kaleef Starks, checking out, and I will call you a later, girlfriend. Thank you for watching.